Join our incredible moms who have mastered the art of balancing motherhood in today's episode of We Time Convo.
My name is Debbie.
This is Liza.
Moms sharing inspiring stories, practical tips, and a few hilarious anecdotes. And it all begins now.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you guys?
Thanks for tuning in.
Yeah. So Debbie just came back from Belize. Is that right? I want to hear all about it because you are our world traveler here.
Thank you for being so kind. Yes, I did come back from Belize 2 weeks ago now, I think. It was a great trip. We went there to celebrate my sister and brother-in-law's 25th wedding anniversary. And it was the first time I was in Central America. It was great. The water was beautiful. Belize has the second largest barrier reef outside of Australia. So we were really excited to experience that. The water, unbelievably clear. It looks just like a bottled water, like literally clear. So it was gorgeous.
Love that because
The weather was a little hot, but not a problem. We stayed in San Pedro, which is an island off Belize City, and it's pretty cool because to get around the island, everybody uses golf carts.
Nice.
So Vanessa.
Oh, she went with you guys. Okay.
Driver.
I thought it was just you and Peter, but nice. I'm glad she went.
Yes. Yeah. So as you can see, I got a little bit of a tan.
Yeah, we match.
But it's nice to be back as well. I would highly recommend, if you haven't been, check out Central America. It's great.
It sounds amazing.
Yes, I should share some pictures.
I would love to see blue water. I'm so used to Santa Cruz caca water. So I want to see blue water.
It was definitely nothing like here.
Or is the sand white?
The sand is white. When you go on the sand, it feels good.
Yeah.
And so I don't know, like here, when I go on the sand, it hurts. Over there, it feels good to the foot. So for me, it was a great trip. We saw a lot of, the water is just fabulous. I can't speak enough about it. So I'm not a big swimmer. We ended up doing one day where we did a tour. We did fishing, lobster diving, snorkeling, and with the barrier reef. And it was wonderful. We saw nurse sharks, so much marine life. Gorgeous.
I don't even know what that is, but I'll look it up.
Yes, now we're back, and as I'm sure some of you guys are also experiencing kids going back to school. So Liza, how has it been? Because I know you guys started school first week of school. Is that right?
Yeah. So Ava started on Thursday, and being the horrible mom that I am, I didn't know because I woke up and I got ready and Ava was awake and I said, "What are you doing up so early?" She's like, "Mom, it's the first day of school."
Oh no.
Whoops. And I usually make her cinnamon rolls, and I was like, "Oh, she's like, "That's fine, Mom." But it was just like, whatever. She's going into 10th grade. Mm-hmm. It wasn't like freshman year. It was a new school. And, Violet will be starting transitional kindergarten in a couple of weeks. So she's a little later. I think that's going to be tough because she is a late sleeper. So trying to get her back on schedule would be tough.
Yes, I would recommend you probably know, start a little earlier, maybe the week before, start getting her used to getting up.
Yeah. So
earlier.
We'll see. And I'm sure I'll have stories about how that will go. But Ava is good. She's all good. She's in 10th grade. Yeah, we're good to go.
Good. Vanessa just started her junior year.
That's right. They did the same. They started the same day.
Thursday.
Yeah.
I know. Isn't it odd that they start on a Thursday? Like literally Thursday, Friday, and then they're off. So
I don't know why schools do that. I think for us it's the same, but I think teachers need their time to come back, and they have their professional developments or meetings and all that fun stuff. So
yes. Yeah. And the fact that it started, doesn't it feel like school starts earlier and earlier?
Mm-hmm.
Like,
I feel like,
I remember it was closer to like, at least when we went to school, which is, now we're dating ourselves because it's closer to Labor Day.
Well, I remember summer feeling like it was like, I think it was like 3 months.
Yes.
Right? I felt like it was really long, but I think they space out a lot of the time off through the year now, and it shortens the summer.
Yes.
But I feel like it does start earlier and earlier, and every year I'm like, already? Just went by so fast.
Yes, I did take a look at the calendar because I do agree, because I don't remember having a lot of breaks during the actual school year.
Yeah.
And I think this year it's great because Vanessa has a week off sometime either in late September or early October. And then during the holidays, it looks like she has 3 weeks off during the Christmas break.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. It's nice.
It's nice. It's nice.
Okay. So anyways, so today we actually have a special guest here, and she's one of our really good friends. And I didn't realize this. We just randomly had it, Irene, our wonderful producer, had it on our schedule, but August is Breastfeeding Awareness Month. And I knew this because I still get parenting emails, which I'm glad I didn't unsubscribe because we wouldn't have known this. And I actually did do a little bit of research, and we do have some facts before we jump into our own experiences. So Debbie, I'm going to let you read the random facts that I found online.
So a couple of random facts. With producing breast milk consumes about 25% of the body's energy. The brain only uses 20% by comparison. So that's a pretty interesting fact that
I didn't know that.
You found out. Also, almost 75% of all moms produce more milk in their right breast, whether they are right-handed or left.
A lot of lopsided moms out there.
Yes. Another one is a mom's body is constantly making the perfect milk for baby. Milk changes its nutritional profile as the baby grows. Milk made for a 3-month-old is different than for a 9-month-old.
It's amazing.
How does the body know how to do that?
Women's bodies are amazing. Yeah, that's crazy.
Another random fact that you found was your milk sprays out many holes in your nipple, not just one. Women can have as few as 3 or as many as 20 something holes. Are you kidding me?
Can I chime in? Men, if you think you know the female anatomy, we have more holes in our body than you think.
Oh my God.
We are just filled with holes.
Oh my
But
goodness.
you can see this when you are actually pumping.
Mm-hmm.
You can kind of just see the milk spraying out of all sides of your nipples. So it's amazing.
Wow. And it looks like the metabolic energy needed to breastfeed a baby each day is the amount you'd use to walk 7 miles. Can you sign me up on this one? I
just have a baby, girl.
No. I'm good. Although this kind of just sways me a little bit.
Yeah.
Wow. So dads, don't feel left out. You can play an important role in breastfeeding as well. So I think you have some other fun
I'll chime in.
Right?
A recent study looking at the role of fathers shows just how impactful their support is when it comes to their partner's breastfeeding. Researchers at Northwestern University and Ann Robert H. Lurie Children's Hospital of Chicago surveyed 250 new fathers in Georgia in the 6 months after their babies were born. The findings showed that among dads who supported their baby's mother breastfeeding, 95% reported breastfeeding initiation and 78% were still breastfeeding at 8 weeks. Among those who didn't have an opinion on breastfeeding or preferred formula, 69% reported breastfeeding initiation and just 33% had babies who were still breastfeeding at 8 weeks. So dads, your support is very important. How can fathers support? Read up on breastfeeding. There are so many sources on the internet. If you have access to a lactation consultant at the hospital, which they all usually do, be there and listen, and don't be afraid to ask questions. So I personally breastfed. I have 3 girls. My oldest, Haley, I didn't breastfeed. It was just a personal choice. I was a young mom. I was like, ick, no, don't suck on my boobs. You're bottle fed. My last 2, I did breastfeed for about 18 to 24 months each. And David, their dad, he was just absolutely just my hugest supporter. You know, as soon as the baby would wake up, he would pick up the baby, kind of do his thing, rock her, and then just kind of like put her next to me so I can breastfeed. Or anytime I had trouble latching on and I was, it's frustrating when they don't latch on, he would just take the baby and say, hey, babe, just, calm down. Let's try again later. So he was great. And I think the reason why I breastfed for so long was because he was just so supportive and just so understanding.
That's great. Yeah. That's great.
I'm going to include the sources, which are WMMC.com and motherly.ly.
We also need to be sensitive to mothers who cannot breastfeed. It could be for medical reasons to the mom or baby, or even just a personal choice. It's fine. Breastfeeding your baby is not the only way to love or bond with your baby. You can still do skin-to-skin contact. There are also many formulas out there now that have just as many nutrients as breast, and it's also a great way to get dad more involved in feeding as well. So I'm really glad that we're talking about the non-breastfeeding mom, because through my personal experience, I only breastfed Vanessa probably less than a month since she was born. And it was a personal choice. I actually was gung-ho about breastfeeding because there is such great information about breastfeeding your child, all the nutrients they get. And so I was actually really gung-ho about experiencing that and providing that for her. But after having her and actually going through, and I was like, I remember the nurse saying, wow, you have great nipples for this. And I was like, oh, and I produced milk, but it just, for whatever reason, didn't feel good to me. And what ended up happening, but I tried, and it was just this one instance where she latched on, and I just did not like the feeling. And after that, I just said, okay, we're just going to go on formula. I don't know what it is. I do feel at that time guilty because it was a choice that I made personally and not because I couldn't do it. But it just didn't feel right to me.
Yeah. And don't feel guilty. That doesn't not at all make you a bad mom that you cannot breastfeed. I think moms that tend to feel guilty about breastfeeding, it just puts so much stress that they don't need. Just focus on just loving your child. Fed is best, regardless.
Yes.
Whether it's breastfeeding or bottle fed, fed is best. And
yes, and I do agree that the source of feeding didn't necessarily just rely on me. I don't know. Maybe the part of it was the pumping and the cleaning. It's not this like really sexy moment that happens. It ends up being like a dependency on you when you breastfeed. And after, there's the cleanup of the breastfeeding if you decide to pump. So there was a lot of that happening. To me, it provided me an opportunity, I think, to share her with other members of my family, such as, my parents, her dad at the time. It was just, it allowed them to also experience feeding her. And it actually lessened some of the pressure from me. So looking back, at the moment, I did feel guilty, but having her have those experiences and giving them those opportunities, also, I don't feel so bad.
Yeah.
So,
yeah. And I would just also like to say, in my experience with my 3 kids, a lot of people press that if you breastfeed your kids, that they'll rarely get sick. They'll have all the immunity. That's a bunch of BS in my case, because Violet was breastfed. Homegirl was always sick. She got COVID like 3 times. I'm like, what the hell, breast milk? Like, and Haley, she hardly ever gets sick, ever. And I didn't breastfeed her. So, I mean, just to put, moms' minds at ease as well. That was just my perspective on that.
No, that's great.
So let's introduce our guest. Her name is Tammy. She is actually one of our mom friends.
Yes.
As well. Yeah.
Yes. So Tammy and I actually met earlier this week, and we had lunch, and she congratulated me and us on our podcast. And we were talking about, content. And I had mentioned breast milk, and one of our mommy friends at the table, Lana, and I'm sure you'll meet her at some episode in the future, she suggested, why not invite Tammy? And I looked over, and Tammy goes, yeah, I was breastfeeding.
Yeah, she's like a human cow. Yeah.
So I asked her, and she was very cordial to come and join and be our first guest. So Tammy, thank you for joining Liza and I and sharing your experience. But before you do, could you provide a little bit of an intro?
Hello, I'm Tammy, and I have 3 children. My kids are 14, 12, and 5.
Oh, you passed the quiz. Remembering.
I had to pause.
That took a while. Yes, that's why I had to pause. And I breastfed all 3 of my children. So my son, I breastfed for 15 months. I pumped and bottle fed my daughter for about 24 months. And my last one, I breastfed until she was 3 years old.
She was an adult.
She was, but she was my last child, and I knew that was my last baby, and I was okay breastfeeding her for that long. I probably would have done more had we not decided to go on vacation.
Is that why you weaned her?
Well, pretty much because my husband, I did a renewal, and then that was the time that I knew I had to wean her off before we had a renewal.
And was that hard?
It was hard for me because she was my last child. It was hard for her because she was addicted to my boob, and it became a soothing.
Yeah. So how did you do it
with my last child?
With the baby.
So
did you put hot sauce on your nipples?
No, I would never do that. No, she's 3 years old.
Have you heard of that though?
Yes. So I would just start decreasing the time that I would nurse her. So it went from like every time she'd come to me and she'd pull my shirt down, and then I would just pop up my boob. And then after that, I said, okay, let me not let her do that in the morning. Let's stop doing that in the afternoon. And then it ended up being just at nighttime. And she was actually using my boob kind of like a self-soothing type of mechanism for her to go to sleep. And then it was just cute. I thought it was a cute bonding. But honestly, my daughter, my middle daughter, thought it was just weird that a 3-year-old was still nursing, because she's not a baby no more. She's a toddler. And I would just explain to my daughter, Emma, which is my middle daughter, that it's okay. It's between mommy and Ella, which is my youngest. And my daughter, Emma, was just worried that if she were to go to preschool and she's still wanting to nurse, it would just be kids would make fun of her. And I said, we don't do that out in the public. We only do that at home. So I told her it's fine. But my middle child had a hard time with me nursing her for that long. Yeah. And for me, it was just hard because I knew that was kind of my last child.
Totally. So and I think sad. That's what I did with Violet, and I forgot your baby's name. Ella. Momnesia. They're about the same age.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think that was the same thing with me. Like, you want that last bonding experience.
Yes, because I really enjoyed breastfeeding my children. In the beginning, it was tough. To be honest, it was really tough, and it was a lot of pressure and time with me because I was on it. I was adamant with the schedule, getting my milk supply up. I came to a point where I got, so when I started breastfeeding and like about after a month or two, when each of my kids, when they were born, I had engorged boobs. It was just, I had all of that. I had like, back with my middle child, why I ended up pumping and giving her the bottle was because I got mastitis. Is that
Mastitis?
Mastitis. And then after that, it was so horrible. Like you got the flu, you felt sick. And then after that, she had thrush. We both had thrush.
Oh.
And that's kind of like a yeast infection where it would go on your nipples, but then also your baby would also get it around her the inside of her mouth. So you'd have to be on antibiotics. But because I had produced so much milk and I had saved it in our freezer, I think antibiotics, we were on it for like 10 days. I made sure like we did not have contact, or she didn't have contact with my boob for about 20 days. So we would just bottle feed her what I pumped. And then by the time that I tried to reinduce her back to my nipple after the 20 days, she didn't want my nipple.
Got it.
So then we just went with just me pumping and giving it to her in a bottle.
Got it. And that, from my experience, that's a lot of work.
It is a lot of work because then it's more you're pumping and then you're washing. And then also when we both have thrush, we had to really sterilize those nipples because you didn't want to have it come back.
Sure.
But I was thankful for my husband. He took care of a lot of the washing and the sterilization, but it was a lot. And I was just sad that she wouldn't just take me or take my nipple, because it would have been so much easier had we were to go out. I could just give her my boob. So during the time we would go out and about, I'd have to always carry my pump as well, and a cooler to store the milk in. Yeah.
Now, what was the motivating factor for you to, do the pumping? So one obviously there's this bonding, but in the case of Emma, she didn't latch on, so there was the back and forth of pumping and feeding her through the bottle. What was a motivating factor? Was it because of the nutrients that you felt that she was going to get from your breast milk?
Correct. It was the nutrients, and let's be honest, it was free.
Got it.
Yeah, but it is a lot of work. So back to what Liza said about thinking that just breast milk is the most nutritious versus like formula. I agree with her. It is BS because all three of my kids were breastfed, but my youngest, who was breastfed the longest, is always sick. Always sick.
Okay.
So I think it is BS. I mean, you do it as a parent, you do what you can do. And as long as your baby's fed, whether it's breast milk or formula, it's perfect. They're fine. They'll survive. I was on formula and I think I'm pretty healthy.
Yeah.
So, Tammy, are you one of those moms that will whip out a boob in public to feed your kids, or are you more modest? And
so I would use a cover, but I am more modest. If I had a choice, like if we were in a restaurant, I'd probably go in our car, turn the AC on, and feed her in the car. I think after every kid, I became more open to feeding her in public. But if we were like at an amusement park, I wouldn't feed her on a bench. I wasn't that comfortable with that. Or I would find a nursing room to feed any of my kids.
And that's great. What we have now is we have so many places like malls that have family rooms and nursery rooms. And hey, I'm a mom. If a mom's going to be out here and wants to whip out a boob and feed her baby, I'm all for it. You got to feed your kid. But there are a lot of people out there that get really offended by that.
Yes. Surprisingly, I don't know where. So I get it. You got to feed. Go ahead and feed. I think for me, it's just not common. And so it surprises me as a mom when somebody just whips it out. Now, it doesn't surprise me if you're feeding and you have a cover. That to me just seems not a problem, but just being out in the open and that is a little shocking to me. But not so much where I'm offended. It's more just shocking, and then you just move on. But yes, you're absolutely right. There are some people that get offended, actually.
No, I agree too, and I think it's just going back to how we all grew up. Back then, we didn't see that a lot, right? We saw, and again, I don't know if your parents breastfed you guys, but I know when I was growing up, it was more formula fed.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's just that our culture and society is changing, right? And it is a natural thing. But for me, myself, I wouldn't just whip my boob out. I'd have to have a cover, or like I said, I would go in my car, turn my AC on, and feed her that way. And I think it's just my comfort level.
Yes. An individual comfort level. How about you, Liza? Do you?
I mean, I had no problem breastfeeding in public, but I was like Tammy. I had a cover. If I had to go in the car, I do it in the car. So I'm not just whipping it out, but I did breastfeed a lot in public. I always covered up. People are usually fine with that, and I've done it at a restaurant. I've done it everywhere. So, but I'd like to also point out for moms that are working and pumping, and I was surprised a lot of moms actually don't know this, but your job needs to provide you with a place to pump, and they need to give you that time to pump. So if your boss says otherwise or is annoyed that you're taking time and a lot of breaks, no, you legally have the right to do this, and they need to provide a space for you.
That's true. So when I went back to work with my middle child and my last child. There were places that they had set up for me to just like pump. So I agree that it is, I believe California, it is the law that you need to provide like a space for new mothers or mothers that are pumping to have a space to be able to do that at work and the time.
So that is good information to know, because it probably in bigger corporations, it might be something that they've already embedded, but in potentially smaller or private companies, maybe it's just not as well known. So that's really great information.
Your insurance, your medical insurance, should provide a breast pump for you. It's covered under your insurance policy.
Can you repeat that?
Yes. So if you're pregnant and you need to purchase a breast pump, your medical insurance should cover the breast pump. Got it.
That's another good.
Yes, because with my first child, that wasn't implemented yet. Second, third, it was. So it's nice to know, because breast pumps are very expensive too.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Yeah. So it's nice to have that, or have an extra one if you need one for travel, and you can leave one at work and then keep the one that you maybe already have just at home to use.
So Tammy, do you have any breastfeeding tips for moms out there that are currently breastfeeding or wanting to breastfeed their babies?
So what worked for me, and it was a crazy schedule for me. So what worked for me was to get my milk supply up. I would nurse my child, and then right after my child is done nursing, I would automatically start pumping. I guess my phone alarm to wake me up or whatnot, or to wake the baby up every 2 hours. And I say that because my firstborn was 3 weeks early. And so I needed to make sure that he was born about 5 pounds and so many ounces. So I wanted to make sure that he would be at an ideal weight when he was going to get checked, I think the following month. And that's what I did, was just set a schedule. Every 2 hours I would feed him, and then I would pump right after.
And you felt like that process produced kind of the most milk.
It did. For me, it did. So I did that with every 3 of my children.
Mm-hmm.
So every 2 hours I would feed them. Or then if they're sleeping, I would still pump every 2 hours. And then that helped my flow. And I made actually really a lot of supply that I end up donating my milk to a couple of my friends that had kids about the same age as my child. So I was pimping out my milk for them.
Nice. She's over here hustling her milk.
Yeah.
So breastfeeding is actually, so it's supply and demand. So I believe that 100%. Your body produces whatever your, baby wants. So for instance, if a mom were to have twins, right? Constantly all day, just producing milk. So that is actually a really good tip, because the more you're wanting your boobs to make more milk, the more it's going to come out for you.
Yes, and I think also another tip is before you're giving birth, I put nipple cream on my boobs. Not to say that I think it did help, because when I did start breastfeeding my kids and when they came out, the way that they would suck, it would crack my nipples. So
it'd be a little painful.
That, and it would blister, right? Because they're sucking, or maybe they latched on wrong, but like I didn't fix the latch, because each child is different, right? But I think the nipple cream did help me. So I would suggest to start putting nipple creams, maybe starting a month before you're due.
So what I have heard that works is to toughen up your nipples before you start breastfeeding, was to get one of those brushes that you use to clean the pots and pans, the wire brushes, and just literally rub them up against your nipples.
Oh no, that would not happen with me
because it hurts. It hurts. I've never done it, but yeah, it does hurt.
It does.
Don't take my advice for it, guys. If you want to try it, just don't blame it on me.
Debbie's face is mortified right now.
No, I think maybe try the nipple cream.
I'm mortified.
So that when the baby does suck, it just your nipple's a little bit more supple to maneuver with the baby versus
how about having your husband suck it for you?
The thing, I did have him do it. So when I was so when I would be so engorged.
This is we time chat convo after dark, you guys.
No, it wasn't. It was just because I would get so engorged, even if there's certain. So with a pump and the way a child sucks, so an infant can suck a way to get rid of bumps, or when you're getting so engorged, you get those lumps. A pump doesn't really get that spot. So if my child was sleeping or tired or done feeding, and I still have a lump, I'd tell my husband, come, you got to suck it out. And then so he would really suck it out. And then I'd be massaging that lump.
Just to help kind of.
Yes, because it's very painful. It's painful to be engorged and have lumps.
I wouldn't be surprised that most men.
Tammy, your husband is a real one for doing that for you.
Oh, well, yes, he is. But it's nothing like pleasure. It wasn't getting off at it. I'll tell you that. It was work, right? I mean, because I'm in pain and he's trying to help me. And, even when, I'll tell you this, even when we froze our milk and then he would heat it up, we would also have to taste the milk just to make sure it's not tainted, right? Or spoiled. So, yeah, he would taste my breast milk. Just to make sure,
Go ahead.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'd imagine, most husbands, the least they can do, right?
Thank you. Yes.
Right? The least they can do.
I agree. Yes.
Yeah.
So when they start developing teeth, that was one big thing for me. I got bitten and chewed so many times. How do you deal with that?
Yes. So with them developing TBS, there's a couple times I did get bit, but then I would stop nursing and be like, no, and then put baby down, or we take a break and then come back to it. And I think the kids kind of got the idea, because I didn't get bit too much, probably maybe twice or 3 times.
So Tammy, because of the length of breastfeeding, at some point I know you did a mommy's night out or a dinner date, and that probably included some alcoholic beverage. Did you do the pump and dump?
Absolutely. I did the pump and dump because I had so much milk. Had I not been able to supply and had that in my freezer, I probably would be more resistant in doing alcohol and be more mindful in not doing alcohol. Yeah, taking alcohol.
Yeah, how long did you store your breast milk?
I kept so we had a deep freezer. So it depends. It depends if you have a standard combo freezer and fridge. I think it's 3 months. But if you have a deep freezer, which we had, I stored it at least 6 months. And then I would rotate it. So I would use the oldest first, and then we always, taste it as well before when we defrost it and fed it to our children. So another thing I want to talk about is that breastfeeding helped me lose a lot of weight.
Mm-hmm.
So
Is that true?
for me, it was.
Mhm.
It depends on, I guess, a person, right? But for me, it honestly kept my weight in control, not gaining weight. And I ate as much as I want.
I was going to say, did you continue to eat because of all the...
Yes, I didn't work out at all.
Mhm.
So it just boosted up my metabolism. And I was telling myself that was another thing why I probably kept feeding my last daughter. Aside from bonding and her being my last child, I was skinny.
Well, that goes back to one of those random facts that you had where metabolic energy for breast milk is equivalent to about a 7-mile walk. So
It also bounces your body back after giving birth pretty quickly, because when you actually breastfeed, it contracts, your body. So you bounce back a lot quicker and recover quicker. My question is, what do your boobs look like now? Because for me, when I breastfed, my boobs look the best they ever did. I loved it. I looked great. But science, what goes up must come down, right? So it kind of just drops after you stop breastfeeding. So how do your boobs look now?
I can show you.
No, I don't. Are you really gonna show us? Okay, let me
I'll
see.
show you.
Oh, that's not bad.
Okay.
Yours look really good. So Irene, all us moms are gonna talk about our experiences with breastfeeding. So Irene, we'd like to hear yours.
Okay, I breastfed all three as well, and I think my oldest for a year, the second for about 16 months, and then the third 18 months. And I did that hot sauce with my second.
With Ben?
With
No wonder
Alina.
why Ben is crazy. So tell us how that worked.
It's actually Alina. So I put hot sauce. I think I put a little bit.
So what kind was it? Tabasco?
I think so.
Oh, man.
Yeah, sorry, Lena. So I put a little bit, and she still kept on sucking. Like, it didn't really work. And
you
then
didn't put enough.
yes, I didn't. But I didn't. The second one, I put a lot.
Does it sting your boob?
No, it didn't. So, and then I put a lot, and then I saw her react, and then moved her head away, and like, I know that she got hurt, right? I felt so bad for her. I'm like, come on back. And she didn't want to go back at all.
So she just stopped cold turkey?
That's it. One time. Yeah. Yeah. But I actually don't remember what I did with Isaiah, my oldest, and Ben, my youngest, how I stopped it. But Isaiah went to the bottle, and Alina and Ben went straight to sippy cups.
Got it.
Mm-hmm.
You have a great memory. I don't. Obviously, I think after a month of breastfeeding Vanessa, she obviously went to a bottle. I don't remember if it bothered her or not. But
Yeah. And one thing I'd also like to point out about breastfeeding is that I always thought that it just came natural, right? You just put your baby up to your boob and they would just naturally just start sucking. No, there's a specific way they have to latch on. Sometimes babies will have like a tongue tie. Have you heard of that, Tammy?
Yes.
Which will make it harder for them to nurse.
So I found, for my experience, I found that when they are infants, the cradle, is it the football cradle, was the best way for me to get my children to latch onto my boob.
So football is when they're, okay, I'm going to try to, or you can try to explain this.
Sure. So it's like if you're holding a football, like you see football players do, they're cradled onto your forearm, but the head is placed on the palm of your hand. So then you're holding the baby close to the side, and you're putting the nipple like right by the front of their face. Yeah.
Tammy, did you have any experience of, obviously, as you produced, leaking?
Yes, I did. So at nighttime, I would wear nipple covers with my nursing bra, And then, funny story, I'll tell you this. When my son was 8 weeks old, I actually went out of town for my best friend's 30th birthday. So we went to San Diego for the weekend. And we were at a club, and I was wearing a black dress. Thank goodness it was black. And I started leaking right there and then on the dance floor.
Do you remember the song?
I don't know what song it was.
Was it Justin Bieber's Baby?
But I knew from right there and then, I'm like, okay, ladies, I will be back. I am going to take a taxi back to the hotel so I could pump and then come right back. And that's what I did. I pumped and I went right back. Because remember, I was pumping every 2 hours or feeding my baby every 2 hours. So I only had a short time frame where if I wasn't having a boob or a pump on me, my boobs would be so engorged and I would just be leaking everywhere.
Yeah, and that's one con too about breastfeeding, I would say, is that you're constantly attached to your baby. Like I had to plan my day around when she would feed. Like if I were to go out, sorry, I can't stay out. I have to go home. They're just, you
So
just
it's
have
a
to be
commitment.
available. Yeah, it is. It is a commitment.
It's a big commitment. It is a very big commitment. And it gets better. It does get better once they start eating solid foods. Yeah, so you can mix it up with food, and then you're not always feeding the baby breast milk. Yes.
So out of personal curiosity, you had mentioned that you probably would have gone longer than 3. I've seen or heard stories of mothers breastfeeding their child well past 5.
Well, yes. So in other countries, it's absolutely normal for them to breastfeed their children while they're still in grade school. Where I don't know where they got the idea here that breastfeeding after 1
Was enough.
or taboo,
Mm-hmm.
I should say. But if you do look and research other countries, they breastfeed their kids while they're still in grade school. Yeah, you're right.
Yeah,
It's for the
formula
marketing.
companies. Yeah.
Mhm.
Maybe goes back to the cost generating factor of
I believe so too, because if you notice too, I don't know if you guys pay attention, but when I was transitioning them from my milk to say cow milk, they had a formula out for toddler milk. So there's toddler milk after.
Oh no, I've never heard of that.
They sell toddler milk.
Actually, Violet was on toddler milk.
My kids were too.
Because
yes.
she was underweight and her pediatrician did recommend it.
What's toddler milk?
It's supposed to be milk that's nutritious for toddlers.
It's like Ensure or like
No,
It's like Infamil. It was like
Formula.
Yeah, formula. But it's formulated more for toddlers. It has all the
Correct.
nutrients,
than regular regular
and
milk.
it costs just as much as formula.
correct. And then
Got it.
back then when I was working, I worked for a company that produced formula. So I got a really hefty discount for buying their milk supply.
So going out to the question of if it wasn't for at 3 years old, what age do you think you would have started weaning Ella off?
To be honest, I wouldn't know. I think I'd be okay. Like if she was 5 and I was just feeding her here and there, I think it would be okay. But honestly, I think it would really bug my middle child. She was having a hard time.
She'd be coming home from high school.
I'm still okay.
Pull up your shirt.
But I mean, she got really addicted, and I know that like when it was like close to nighttime and we'd be out like at a family party or something, she'd come to me and I should just show you these cute videos if I say so, because I would always say busa, which is like in Vietnamese, like you want milk, right? And so when I say that, she gets all excited and she would grab her bobby, because I would use a bobby, and then she'd come to me with her bobby. It's really cute. I should show you that video.
Ella's so cute.
Yeah.
Well, thank you, Tammy, again for coming on to We Time Convo and talking about your experiences with breastfeeding. And I'm sure we'll have you on again to talk about other mommy things.
Thank you, everyone, for having me. This was fun.
Thank you, Tammy.